By this time, Debbie had gotten married. And Jeanne was twice becoming a grandma in the same years as she was birthing her 2 sons. Debbie's first daughter, Stephanie, came a year after Nathan, and Heather a year after Ben.
No, same year.
Same year?
No.
Close.
And Zach and Peter.
Yeah, we're the alternates.
Yeah, Zach and Peter the alternates.
Then there was another curveball thrown in Don's way. Don lost his position in the store, but his boss helped him with a new opportunity in Eugene art. He loaned Don the funds to restock and restart a hardware store that was closing there, and Don finally entered the realm of the real, true American entrepreneurship and owned his own business. You can, plumbing and appliance, electric and plumbing. That opened in December 1975. And so duck season started for the Zelens. The home of the University of Oregon Ducks was the Zelens' home for years. The longest that Jeanne had lived in any one place since her childhood in Blair. These were great years. During them, Susan and Nancy would finish school, marry, and leave the nest. Don John would play high school football and attend the University of Oregon. Nathan and Ben attended the Christian church just down the hill from the big house, and a great network of friends and relatives were welcomed there. Then the economy turned into a very bizarre deep recession that killed the building industry. You really had to live through 19% interest rates and 14% inflation to know how bad it was in the late 70s, early 80s. By 1983, UCAN closed and the family needed to move in 1988. So Don landed a position with Grace Aircraft, briefly, in Portland. Jeanne picked up a triplex there, and moved into it with only Nathan and Ben still in tow, age 14 and 12. During the 18 months that Jeanne lived there, she rented out the middle unit to Nancy for a year, and to Susan for a couple of years, though they crossed paths only for 6 months. Don found this new job very unsatisfactory for him, but it did introduce him to a new innovation, fiber optic lights. This inspired Don to open his own business, Fiber Tech, for 12 years from 1988 to 2000. He was the founder, owner, manager, and traveled around the world. He loved it. But Jeanne was practical and forward-looking. She was 53 years old in 1988 and thinking about retirement and what would happen when the last kids left the nest. Don was an entrepreneur and loving the adventure, but there would be no pensions and little Social Security. The boys were old enough that she felt comfortable taking a job in a bank to supplement their income after being a homemaker for all those decades. Mm-hmm. This stability allowed them to move out of the triplex in 1989 into the big house in Bowerwood in the West Portland Hills. Jeanne would live there until 2011. I didn't realize she was there then. Even longer than Eugene. These early years were very good for Jeanne and the boys. In that house, Nate and Ben and their friends grew up and finished high school and moved on to college. Also during these years, Susan and Nancy delighted Jeanne with more grandkids. Christina and Spencer from Sue, and Melissa, Crystal, Nicholas, and Aubrey from Nancy. And Debbie remarried, and Jeanne welcomed Tom's daughter, Dominique, and her granddaughter. It was a great season for grandparents. Jeanne wanted more security, so she took classes in retirement financial planning and got a job with a financial firm. Then in 1998, a position came open in the state of Oregon's Public Employment Retirement System, PERS. It had great health and retirement benefits that they really needed at that time in their life. Jeanne qualified and excelled for 11 years, starting at almost age 60. It provided stability and security and balanced the ups and downs of the fiber tech years. New technologies, when Don was 65, fiber tech couldn't keep going. New technologies were coming, and yet another recession laid fiber tech to rest. During this time, grandkids numbers 9 through 15 came along. From Nathan came Lauren, Christian, Ethan, and Hayden. From Ben came Mariana and Elijah. And great grandkids started coming. Stephanie made Jeanne both great and grand with Shay, Riley, and Jenna, and Crystal with Sonora. In 2011, Jeanne sold her house in Portland and moved to Canyon, into the townhouse and the duplex. Jeanne continued welcoming in a stream of great grandkids. From Stephanie came Isla, from Christina came Jaden, Jackson, and Sophia, from Alyssa, Otis, and June, from Crystal, Cash, from Aubrey, Theodore, from Dominique, Finley, and Annika.
And Truett.
And Trick.
Yeah, it's a long list.
And don't, yeah, you got Sonora, right?
I got her earlier.
Oh, you got her.
She came in with Shay and Riley and Jenna.
Yeah.
By 1950, Don's health had failed to the point that he needed to move into Hope Village, a supported facility, for his last 2 years. And I've witnessed no greater love lavished on a declining spouse than I saw from my big sister Jeanne until Dawn passed in 2017. 3 years later, her oldest son, Don John, would follow his father from diabetic complications. So Jeanne's 7 years of widowhood started. She continued in the duplex for another 4 years, enjoying her gardening, her church, and her independence. However, in 2021, her strength was failing. She decided to follow Don's lead and move into Hope Village, and then to supported living facilities in Vancouver. Over the final 18 months, it was our privilege to pick up Jeanne at her Vancouver supported living facilities every Sunday and take her to church. Her faith in her God never wavered. Her constant refrain was that she was where God wanted her to be. He knew best, and she would make the best of it. Her last decline was sudden, short, and peaceful. For those who knew Jeanne Louise Zelen as mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, aunt, or friend, the loss of this incredible woman will leave a void. Her loss is heaven's gain. Jeanne took her happiness with her into every stop along her long pilgrimage. Lots and lots of stops. Now with Dawn, her mother and father, and especially with Jesus, her joy will be complete. What we would now like to do is have other people share